What's good? It's your boy Logic. And this is just gonna be a Epic 7 rant. A lot of people don't know that I play mobile games. There's like a big three for me. There was a there's still a big three kind of now. I used to play Marvel Future Fight pretty hard. Played that for 5-6 years. But then recently, there's been a lot of glitches in the game, and it could be my phone, could be the company. But basically, um, there were as of recently, there was 2 extended periods of time where I couldn't log in for weeks. 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. I couldn't really log into the game. And the only fortunate thing about me is that in the past 4 months, I had already put minimal money into the game. I might have bought the monthly pack where it's like $5. You can get little daily whatevers and stuff like they usually put in games, but I never really invested in any packs or nothing like that. So I had quit the game, and then it's kind of like you've been playing for 5-6 years. It's kind of like you don't want to give up. So I uploaded the game. The game was working again. Then I played for about a week or whatever, and then the game fucked up again. And then I couldn't log in again. And then there was another couple weeks. And I just you know what? This is where, and because of the first time, I already knew not to invest heavily because I said this could happen again. And it did. And then I just all right, boom, whatever. So I don't play Marvel Future Fight anymore. It sucks because I'm a Marvel head, right? Then the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters came out, so I had to get on that. I don't play it as much, but I do enjoy it. 7 Nights, which the presentation is great. The summoning system is straight fucking trash. And why the Korean people hasn't got on them for the way their summoning things are, the way they're going after Epic 7, I don't know, but aesthetically it's good. I do enjoy it, but it was a slight money pit in the beginning, and once I really realized that you have to kind of slow down because I didn't really spend like 400. Let's say I spent maybe about $400 in the 3 months, which is a lot. But once I kind of said, I don't think I better keep up that pace, and I've never been like a whale. I've been like a not even like a dolphin. It's more like a nice little carp. If I like a game, play it, and it's cool, I'll put some money in it and just be like, man, I'll invest in it, man. And then it'll kind of keep me wanting to play it anyway because I invested some money in it. So I try not to keep it short term. And then there's the game that we're talking about right now, and that is Epic 7, right? Which is probably my favorite game that I'm playing right now, right? Based on it, I don't even play it to be competitive or like that. I do like the PvP aspect, but I dabble in it. But really, I just I'm more of a PvE dude, right? Because I've been playing mobile games. I'm 35 years old. I've been playing mobile games for a long time, and I already know kind of how it works, right? They get you with the PvE, and usually people can run through that real fast, especially if you spend money. You'll smash through the game and start complaining about how the game is boring and this and that and the other, but you paid to run through the content, and then usually that leaves you with the PvP. And a lot of people love the PvP, but here's the thing. Usually it starts getting stale because they can't really release probably new units in succession enough for you. And then it just gets boring. You know what I'm saying? You'll run your little things or whatever like that. So usually when you go to end game, you start going to PvP, you'll get excited because you're beating people and stuff like that. But then you get tired of using the same heroes. And then there's only so many different ways you can really PvP other people. You know what I'm saying? It's your unit versus their unit, like your unit versus their unit. So whatever, right? So and that's typically how like most gacha games go. Like they get you into summoning characters that look cool, got new kits and whatever like that, and eventually you get through the PvE, you get to the PvP, and then it's really just, do you like the presentation of the game? Are you willing just to support the game, just to support the game? You know, it is what it is. And I love the animation aspect. I love the character designs, the waifus, all the stuff. I really do not play for PvP. And maybe that's why my perspective on everything that's going down isn't as harsh as everybody else's. But I didn't realize at the big controversy until I saw it from the Korean side of things, right? And I never understood, like, man, why are the Koreans going so hard on this game? That to me, from all my years of playing like gacha games and shit like that, it's following the same basic mode outside of the new implementation that they've had to put in gacha games recently, as far as showing you the raids and stuff like that, you know, and you know, that way you know your chances and stuff like that. That's kind of been put in a few years ago, whatever. So as far as Epic 7, and once I've been playing since day one, so if I would have seen anything really underhanded or whatever like that, I would have probably I'm sure things could fly under the radar and shit, but usually I would have called it out. I would have backed out of the game, whatever. But as far as my playing experience, they haven't really done anything really out of bounds like that. Yeah, maybe there's an OP unit or a too weak of a unit, and then you thought it was gonna be good, and then you want shit to get buffed or something like that. But one of the problems in the early Epic 7, it was really the only things that I had a problem with Epic 7, was in the early days, they was nerfing units, right? Crimson Armin was one of my first two MLs were two ML4s. I think by the end of the game, I was able to summon three MLs, and I know two of them was Crimson Armin, Shadow Rose, and I'm trying to remember what my third one was. It was a 3-star though, right? I didn't know how good Crimson Armin was until way later, but I think she had the 3-turn immunity with the invincibility, and I think maybe like a 20% crit damage mitigation or something like that. And people were crying that she was OP, right? And I'm like, I didn't know how good she was back then. And they nerfed her. They nerfed her damage. They nerfed the immunity down to like 2 turns. And I don't know if they nerfed the cooldown time on it or whatever, but she got nerfed, and then she got a slight buff later on, but she's not even at the full power. Like, they're complaining about how busted units are now. I'm like, Crimson Armin is still weaker than her original form. Like, whatever, right? So basically, I've been listening to the Korean side of things, and they and over there, mobile games is almost like, if you were going on a date with a chick, it's almost like asking what they play on their phone is like a go-to question or some shit. Like, they take mobile gaming and shit to a whole nother level. It's like bred in a culture now, even though phone games are kind of fairly new, but they've adopted it. I mean, I'll tell you like this. They've adopted mobile games like Americans have adopted like social media and shit. And I'll tell you right now, I don't agree with the social media shit. So this ain't gonna be no surprise. I don't agree with the way the Koreans are like so invested in the mobile games, right? But it's a different culture, so I really, who am I to really say like what they're, whether or not they're going too far with it. But when I found out they got these like digital trucks, signs, or whatever that they can, if enough people like complain about a game, it gets broadcasted on the news, and then it becomes like national headlines and shit, and it makes the game look bad and all that. Like, once I saw that that's how far they can take it, and then review bomb the game, and I'm not 100% sure if it becomes undownloadable or whatever in the Play Store or whatever, but what I found out is that because they put the app games on such a high pedestal, it gave them more access to like almost like crippling the game. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand shady practices and this, that, and the other, but I was like, but like I said, from the standpoint of me playing app games, they haven't really done anything out of bounds. Yeah, there's this unit's kind of OP and whatever, but there was no like they got me for my money type of situation. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like outside of summoning like a weak unit, which to me the worst thing you could do is summon a weak unit. You know, summoning a unit that was weak that they made overpowered, to me is not as bad as summoning a unit that's trash. Because a lot of people are spending money on these games and we don't want that buyer's remorse. Like, oh, we bought a unit that we thought was going to be good and it's trash. Because some people ain't going to wait for reviews, and you got to wait for content creators to build up the unit and then try to like test it out. And then are they testing it out the same way you would kind of test it out? So you're still really not, like, you know what I'm saying? Eventually you're just going to have to like summon the shit, either miss out or summon the shit yourself. Right. So, but okay. So the Koreans, they got ways to like fuck over like mobile game industries and shit like that and whatever. And I think like with great power comes great responsibility. And even in some of the community posts in the Korean like forums and shit, they was shitting on like global, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there was probably global people maybe saying some things about Koreans, but you know, I didn't think it was that serious. But to see, they said that like global people are brainwashed and whatever and stuff like that. I said, but once I actually found out about the culture and shit, I said, y'all take this game way too seriously, abnormally serious. Like, even if I were to just take it as a cultural thing, just from a human standpoint, as far as putting a lot of emphasis on digital shit, like, I don't think it's a good idea as a whole. Like, not even just from a cultural standpoint, and, oh, I'm from over here and we do things different. I just think that when it comes to digital shit, I think as humans, we invest too much in I think we're starting to lose interest in the tangible. And as humans, we exist in a tangible world, but we're starting to invest more and more and more in digital shit. Stuff that's just data and zeros and ones and stuff. And we're putting value on it. It doesn't have any real useful value. It doesn't have really any collectible value. And now we're trying to use NFTs and shit to try to trick our minds into thinking it has collectible value. But if your computer blew up, like, it's gone, like it was data inside the thing, and you know, whatever. So I already feel that the Koreans, you know, the way they're looking at the app games, I already think that's not healthy. I don't think it's healthy, right? So maybe that's biased, but I just think that from a humanoid standpoint, as far as just how we treat social media and how important we try to put too much emphasis on it and shit like that, that we're logging in more in the digital world than we are in the real world, right? So the way the Koreans are doing it, I'm like this. I found out the culture. I saw what they think about us over here and others, and I came to a conclusion straight up. We can't coexist. Like, we shouldn't even be able to interact with Korean players. Like, their culture is so drastically different. There's no subtleties about the way American global players play versus Korean players. Like once I saw that their culture and shit, like the mobile game, like literally exists in real world, like shit, I said, oh, if y'all take the game that far, like, and y'all willing to go to these extents and stuff, I said, oh, we can't play, because there's no way you're gonna be able to satisfy global players and satisfy the drastic cultural differences of Korean players. Like, just some of the shit they ask for is just so, like I said, it might be a cultural difference, but I said, yo, man, this is so over the top that I don't know how you can solve everybody's issue, you know? And the way the Koreans are looking is, I think the way it looks like is like if you don't solve all their issues, they're just gonna keep complaining until you are pushed in submission, and whether you give in to their demands or you just don't exist. Like literally like a cancel culture type level shit, right? So I'm just like, at this point, we can't have two servers. Like we can't, like if Epic 7 is to continue existing, they're gonna have to dedicate a global version to where it doesn't even have the same schedules and the way they earn currency. And if you keep it separate, I would say this: you just make the announcement like, look, do not compare and contrast like the Korean version to our version, because usually when a game comes out for one country, like if it's made in Korea, let's say usually you don't get same day release. Sometimes you'll get like a few months later or a year later, it'll become global. And every time there's a new game, they always give you a day one pack or for beginner stuff and rewards. And a lot of people, what they tend to do is compare rewards. Like, oh, Korea got this when they first played, so we should be getting the same thing. And I think like this: we need to get to a point where we don't even do that. I rather just be stated, look, different culture, different game. It's the same title and shit, but it's not gonna play the same, right? And it's just because. And just have to explain the culture. It's gonna look shitty for those who don't do the time to invest in the like learning about the Korean culture and what it means for like games and stuff like that. But they'll have to understand that they just don't accept certain things. It'd be just like if loot boxes were outlawed in Korea, but we could have it here. Do we not have loot? I'm not saying loot boxes is a good thing, but I'm just saying, like, let's say loot boxes was completely outlawed in Korea. Does that mean we don't have it in America? But let's say they make loot boxes a certain aspect of the game where you kind of want the loot box, but I know there's a negative connotation when it comes to loot boxes. I'm just using that as an example. Like, what should we take out the game? What should we keep in the game when we got laws and cultural differences that are so drastic that you really can't have the same game function the same way? Like, so I think we need to just have separate games and let the Koreans get what they want. Like, let the Koreans get what we want. I'd rather have global be able to complain about global issues, and then Korean servers can complain about Korean issues, but they never intermingle. Like, I just think that's the only fair way, and it sucks because then you got to dedicate like multiple teams to try to manage two different kind of games. I don't know. But once I understood how Koreans treat the mobile community, I was like, oh, we can't coexist. Like, it's way too drastic. And they won't. Now let's get into like, what are their complaints, right? Their complaint is like the meta, the PvP, the shit, that the end game shit, right? And they're talking about, man, all the 7 disasters are all MLs that are too OP and blah, blah, blah. Even though we can ban 2 out of the 7. And I'll say, and if you have all 7, you're probably a whale. Let's just say what it is, unless you were that nigga that got so lucky that you can get all 7 of them. But typically you'd have to be a whale to get all 7, right? And then you can ban 2 out of the 7. And then here's the thing. The whale's probably going to ban 2, and then you as other player going to ban 2, and technically you're going to ban 4 out of the 7, and you'll better use 3, and then you'll have to make up with the other ones, right? There's talks about making like a double, a 2 pre-ban, so then I guess both people can ban 3, which means there'll be only 1 character left, or whatever. Like, but that was an idea, but they really are just mad that the meta is all MLs, right? And typically only whales are going to have the MLs. And my question to the people that are really invested in the PvP side, I'm like, and maybe I'm wrong, but typically whales win most of the time. They're willing to put their money where their mouth is. They're willing to go above and beyond where maybe just a hardcore player versus like a whale hardcore player. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where they're buying power and units and shit like that. You will always lose to a whale. It doesn't matter what units they use. So really, technically, what you're really mad at is how you're losing. You're gonna lose more often than not. You just want to control how you lose. All right, there's no, I'll say this. Pick what units you want to be meta. I'll let you pick the units you want to be meta. And then you will lose to a whale with those same units. Because he's gonna have all the imprints. He's gonna have all the mullahs, because they already complained about, oh, we can't mullah all the skills and it takes a lot of, and it's hard to mullah all the, whatever the units and stuff like that. So a whale's gonna have all the mullahs, he's gonna have all the imprints, and he's gonna have better gear because he's gonna be willing to spend on leaves and have more energies to keep farming for the right gear. So whatever version of the unit you got versus his version, he gonna have what you got plus some anyway, and he's gonna beat you. So it doesn't matter what the meta is, you're gonna lose to the whales. So really, you're just complaining on how you're losing. You want to control how you lose at that point. Yeah, I'm not saying that you might not have a higher percentage chance of winning because you'll actually have access to the units that are meta. But like, if you were losing at a 90% rate because all the fucking units were MLs, well then, okay, now you lose at 80% rate. So you get a 10% more chance to like win or whatever like that. And every gacha mobile game that has some type of pay option in there, typically speaking, whales always have an advantage. Because whatever you put into the game, they're willing to put the same amount of time and effort in the game and then put cash into it too. So they're always going to bridge the gap between y'all when it with the money. So soon as you can get access to things with money, depending on what those things, like some games try to vie for, everything that you pay for is aesthetics, and there's really that'd be cool if this game was the type of game where you can only buy like I'll even let this slide. You can buy energy and you can buy outfits. So you can buy more chances at running through the game, and you can buy outfits. You're not necessarily getting direct access to like gear and units or whatever, right? But even at and maybe that would be it. But then the game would die. Like as beautiful as the game is, and the graphics and the time they put into the animation shit, they would be losing money because no one would just be buying outfits like that. Y'all can make the statement like, man, y'all could be making a ton of money off buying outfits and stuff. Like, nobody's really buying outfits like that because not every outfit's gonna be good. And people don't like invest in shit like people do care about the way their characters look, but people will really put money in when it really makes a difference on how the character plays. Because there's no stats on the uniforms or unlock any special abilities on the uniforms. And especially because people are cheap to a degree, if I don't feel like I have to spend it on a uniform, like I won't spend it on the uniform. Like, you know what I'm saying? So at best, maybe I'll spend it on the energy or whatever. But basically, like I said, it doesn't matter what units become meta, you're gonna get shat on by a whale regardless. So I always thought that was kind of like, it is what it is. So then they complain about nerfing units versus buffing units and stuff like that, which basically to me it's the same thing. You're just on two opposite sides of the spectrum. Oh, if we buff this unit, it makes these units weak, and when we nerf these units, it makes these units strong. I always say like this. When it comes to newer units and current spenders in the game, you don't want them to have buyer's remorse, right? I always say that over time, you don't get the privilege of using buyer's remorse for a unit that's like 6 months old or some shit like that, right? In gacha games, it's natural to have power creep. It's not every unit's going to get used, and especially when a game lasted so long and it has an extensive roster of characters, it's always like here's the thing. Units should be naturally more powerful than old units, for one. And that's why you would invest in newer units. And then two, people get bored of playing with the same old units anyway. Oh, I've seen the animation a million times and, whatever, and I play with it. I want a shiny new toy, right? So there's too many reasons for summoning new units. Then I'm a low spender and all I have is old units, so I want the old units to be good. That's really the only reason why you would really vie for old units, is if you just want to be a free to play. Which in me, I really say that farming bookmarks, you can farm bookmarks very easily without spending no money. Like, I do put money in the game, and that's typically on Mystic Metals every now and then. And I don't spend hundreds of dollars on Mystic Metals. Like, if I'm close to like hitting the pity, I'll throw a few in on the Mystic Metals, and then I buy the monthly like 30 crystal thing. And that's really it. I don't have to really spend, like, I have 4,000 bookmarks off of running the damn shop, and I've never really had to spend, like, every Covenant unit, I've never had to spend money to get those units. I've only had to spend money on Mystic Metals and like monthly like 30 crystal packs, like when I wanted to. Like, and then early in the game, I did buy the $100 packs when it came to like, oh, you got early in the game when you got the galaxy bookmarks, some crystals, some mullahs. I've bought a couple of those in the past, but I really don't buy those no more. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to wait and farm for those little resources and shit, and then I'll save up Mystic Metals through Guild Wars and whatever, and then and I'll have to pass on some ML units that I want, and then once I get enough, or I feel like I'm close to where maybe I only have to spend like $100 on a pack or something to hit that pity, I'll do that, right? If I didn't get lucky and pull it, which I got to say I have been a little lucky, and I didn't have to pity. I'll say this: 50% of the time I've had to pity on MLs. So let's say if I had 10 MLs, yeah, 5 of them I had to pity. And then another 5 I've, gotten like at a good, decent rate before pity. Like, out of 200, I was in the 100th summon, 120th summon, and got it. So I've saved a lot of Mystic Metals, right? So the buffing and nerfing units, I'm like, look, global people, I don't think, care as much about buffing old units, but because they have this thing called specialty change, it's a built-in scheduled buff of old units typically, right? So it's kind of like expected buffs for like 3-star units, which is cool, because to be 100 with you, most 3-star units aren't used until they get specialty change. So that's really the only thing I would really fight more for, is like more 3-star specialty changes, because they're so commonly summoned, and it's an easy way for players to get access to like pretty strong characters without doing any heavily investments. But when it comes to ML characters, like, okay, MLs have an edge because they don't have type disadvantage. So inherently, MLs are gonna be stronger just right there off the base like line of just having element, chances of missing and hitting and stuff, right? Then the fact that it takes so many Mystic Metals and the access to Mystic Metals is so hard that getting access to the characters inherently have to make them special. And it can't just be the fact that they're light and dark, right? Whether their kit got to be pretty strong or just like, they're just strong in general, they damage or whatever, right? So I think it's ridiculous to question that ML is too like, I mean, super OP. Like, not just, man, they're very strong, but the fact that it takes so hard to summon, like, the complaints on MLs, you might as well make them Covenant. Excuse me, let me get some water real quick. You might as well make them Covenants, because You don't want MLs to be special. I say this. MLs should be inherently stronger than majority of Covenant summon units, right? They're too hard to summon, and they have a type advantage anyway. So just off rip, they should just be like, who would summon for something that hard and then they're just as good as a Covenant unit, right? By that logic, there really shouldn't be any Covenant units that fulfill the same role that should be better. Like if there's a Moonlight healer, there shouldn't be a Covenant healer that does healing better than an ML healer. Shouldn't. Why? Why would it outside of collab units? And this is where there's I would say there's a catch or an exception. Collab units are almost like ML heroes that have the standard types. The fire, water, earth elements. These are the only times that I give a pass to Covenant units being as strong as ML units. You know, they're special edition, whatever, limited units that don't come but once a year and stuff like that. Those can be as strong as ML units. There is no reason to be buffing you. Like, if y'all have a problem with the MLs being strong, then y'all need to just make them be summoned with Covenants. Like put a pity, let's say it's 240 regular bookmarks to get it, so everybody has access to it. It's gonna be double. You're basically paying for just the type advantage, but just make their kit just as basic as a Covenant unit. That's basically what you like, you know what I'm saying? Because there is no reason to summon an ML if it ain't for power. I'm not spending that much money just for a unit to look good. He has to perform good. And MLs already have the type advantage, and the fact that they're that hard means that their kit has to be better. It just has to be better than every Covenant summon unit, if in the role that they would play. If they're a damage dealer, an ML damage dealer should be the best damage dealer out of all Covenant. It just why wouldn't it be? Why you know what I'm saying? To go through all that hell to do it just should be. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when Korea complains about like, oh, you know, whatever, I'm like whether we get MLs out the game or make them easier to access, I mean, to me, they should always be stronger to some degree, whatever. And should they only be 10% stronger or 20% stronger? I mean, that's really the only, I guess you're arguing that. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, we should come out with a poll. How much more stronger should MLs be than Covenant? Should it be 50% more stronger? No, I wouldn't say 50%. That's very overpowered. But I would say a good 20% stronger. You know what I'm saying? They should be 20% stronger. 10% would be minuscule, and it'd be like, you'd almost be flipping a coin at that point when you win. I'm like, I spent a lot of time saving up these Mystic Bells, or as a whale, I put so much money in the game for 10% power creep. I'm like, I'm good. So yeah. So their complaints on the buffs and nerfs, I think, are kind of like whatever. And then they complain about mullahs and all this other bullshit or whatever like that. And here's my whole thing about gacha games. And they have to put stress on the player. And what I mean by that is I don't think it's good for everybody to have access to every resource to the point where every time a new hero comes out, if they wanted to, they can just max mullah and stat them out. I don't think that you should just, the resources should be that free. Like, what I think makes good players and whatever is critical thinking, like resource management. I can't invest. I have to pick my favorite units and or the best units or that fit maybe your play style or the meta or whatever, and you invest specifically into those. You do not have the resources to be just maxing out every unit that comes out, right? It basically forces you to play smart, because if you can just max out every unit, then you don't really got to think. You just be like, I'm going to max out all units every time they come out and then just see whatever else is playing and just play to whatever. Like, no. Like there's been times where I've invested in a unit that I don't even play. I tried it out. I thought it was going to be good. It wasn't whatever. I made a mistake. I didn't do my due diligence on looking up the unit, researching unit, whatever. And then it took away resources that I would use for another unit. That's not Smilegate's fault. That's my fault. Because I should have used discretion. And that's another thing that can set players apart. You have to give players the freedom to fuck up, which means you have to limit every gacha game. Always, like, limiting resources is kind of common, even in outside of gacha games. You play any game, Final Fantasy, whatever. You can't just infinitely farm everything, whether it's time gated, resource gated. Like, you usually just don't have unlimited access to all the stuff, right? So it forces you to be like, all right, I can use this for this person, and I'm gonna have to go it out because, whatever. So, do I think more mullahs need to be? And I'm like, I'm okay with the way the mullah system is. Like, and if you want extra mullahs, you pay for them. You know what I'm saying? These are for people that keep trying to mullah every fucking character that comes out. They complain. I got about 45 mullahs right now, right? And I'm cool. And I'm sitting on some units that I could mullah, but then I know that there's a collab coming. This is me resource managing. I could mullah some units that I really like. But why not wait for the collab to come out and really make a good, firm decision? You know what I'm saying? This is people who are smart. I would say, hey, this is especially if you invest in the game, you have to. Sometimes you can't be too hasty. You have to wait. So that's what I said. I don't understand. I'm like, whatever. Like, I think once they allowed you to craft smaller catalysts and the bigger catalysts, and I'm like, they've given you the opportunity to get, like, when I first played Epic 7, and you could only get catalysts by farm. Like, nigga, I would run a board like 50 times to get one catalyst. You know how much energy that was to get one? And then now we got a way to, like, transfer and, like, do all this. And then your guild can give you some free, like, every week you can get some. I was like, they've really improved, like, the way you get catalysts. But for players that have been playing for so long, players get greedier and greedier, and the stuff needs to get easier and easier. And I'm just like, the fact that you've been playing the game so long, this stuff should be coming easier to you just by default. You knowing where to go, having access to the resources. Like, I don't. It's weird. It's weird to me, like, how people act when because you've been supporting the game so much. I think we need to be entitled to X, Y, and Z. I'm like good grief, right? So I mean, like I said, I'm not saying every point that they've made isn't valid. But I think that a lot of this comes from some level of entitlement, and based on their Korean culture of how they get shit done over there, I think that they know that they got Smilegate in the back of their pocket if they really want to, whether they're gonna get what they want or shut down a game or whatever like that. And I don't think that people who have that type of power and they know, like, they have that kind of leverage, I don't think that they would use it, like, wisely. People just don't use power wisely. When you have that type of power, humans just don't handle that type of power wisely, period. So, like I said, we need to just have separate servers, whatever, and then do whatever the fuck they want over there, right? If they have the manpower to have 2 different Epic 7s that runs on a whole different set of rules and shit, I would be for it. I just think the cultural differences is just way too far apart. If they were a little bit similar, all right, fine, cool, we could, acquiesce to some of their shit. Too far. I don't see this being a thing. I mean, it boggles my mind as far as they go when it comes to mobile games and what they want from units and whatever. I'm okay with characters slowly getting more powerful over time, and if they want to, and if it's like a main character of a story and stuff, you want to go back and juice them up with some more power and stuff because for the story's sake and shit, that's good too, and then, like I said, and every 2 or 3 months have like a specialty change, 3-star, whatever. That's cool too. But I do think shitty units need to exist, because here's the thing. Like, you've been playing the game long enough, you have memories. I used to play Brave Frontier, and I don't mind looking back in my, like, in my my library and say, man, I remember when this unit was good. I don't necessarily desire that he needs to be good right now, but I remember when everybody went after this. It's like an old Yu-Gi-Oh card, like a Blue Eyes card. This used to be the shit, man. I remember when I used to run shop on them. Man, those are some good times. I don't necessarily need to have Blue Eyes be good today. I just like the memories of knowing when he was good. And that's good enough for me. Like, long as the power creep is slow and gradual and stuff, and it's not not trying to get you to spend every freaking time. That's one thing. But I don't mind looking back in the library units and be like, man, I remember when Roz was good. Man, I remember when, Landy was good. Like, I'd be like, they don't always have to be relevant. I do not think every character has to be relevant. And then when new players come in, Landy and them characters and Roz will be relevant for them as they start the game out. You know what I'm saying? And then eventually they'll fade into the back like all other units. Like, I don't get it. Every unit does not have to be usable in current meta and stuff like that. Like, I think it's kind of cool to have memories of units that used to be used and whatever, and you're looking forward to the future and shit. So, but that's just my take. We need to have separate servers or whatever. Korea is bonkers the way they live in the digital world. They're literally, they might as well just jack themselves in, hook them up. I think, and that's not the knock on Korea. I think the world in general is heading in that direction when it comes to all things like social media and digital and shit like that, with NFTs and all this other stuff. But I don't think mobile games have always been like predatory to a degree and stuff like that, and to take them that serious is whatever. And I'm like this, and I'm gonna have to do some research, because I said, hey, if you're going this hard on Epic 7, y'all need to be doing this shit for 7 nights, because the summon rates is straight fuckery. But all right, man, this is my rant. I'm done. I'm sorry the video's long, but I don't agree with the Korean thing. And like I said, 2 different Epic 7s. Peace.